We'll take a look at your agenda for this evening. Ordinances on the final reading. We have one from the mayor's office. Please hit your light if you have any comments or questions. All right. Ordinances on the first reading, they will be in committee today, both planning and zoning and parks and public works. Resolutions. We have reappointment, also on the council office as well as finance. Any comments or questions, please, again, hit your light. All right, council, if you will take a look at next week's proposed agenda items. If you have any comments or questions about that, please hit your light. Let's see here. All right. Okay, I don't see any lights. Purchasing questions, any comments or questions about those? We have 6 purchases this evening. I believe 1 sole source and 1 renewal. All right. Council, if you would take a look at future considerations, if you have any comments or questions regarding that. And, all right, just hit your light. I do have a question about on the economic development, item A. Just an explanation of what that is.
Yes, I'll ask Richard Beelan to come up to provide more information about this one.
Okay, thank you. Future considerations on the economic development, item A. Yes. Hey, Richard.
Yes, ma'am. Hi. This is the Harbor Hotel item that's on there. Is that correct? Yeah, so this is the Spring Hill Suites that's down by Cameron Harbor. And they are refinancing, and we have a parking lot that they leased. They've leased it since 2008. And this just reaffirms that it is a part of the development when they go for their refinancing.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Well, just stay on up for just a second.
Okay.
Item C and D that keeps coming before us regarding the Forgotten Child Fund.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you give more information?
This is a 3-month extension for that, which will take them through the end of January, at which time it's our understanding that they have a place to move to.
All right. Thank you so much. Any other questions for future considerations? Thank you. So we will have planning and zoning first, and followed by parks and public works. As a reminder, next week is National Night Out, so we will have our agenda session at 1 p.m. and our council meeting at 4 p.m. So if there are no other questions, I will turn it over to Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll now move to open our Planning and Zoning Committee. If I can get a motion on the minutes, please. Minutes will stand without objection. Ordinances on final reading. Karen, good afternoon. We are going to run through our cases with opposition. And let me say one more time, thank you, Madam Vice Chair, for arranging those when you were in this position. I think it was very efficient. I do like this. Karen, are you ready? Case number 2023-00 or 0116.
Okay, there's a presentation. Should say Planning and Zoning Committee on the front. There should be another one in there. This will be I'll use this one tonight if there's questions.
That's what you heard.
Okay.
No question.
Councilman Henderson, yes. 0116, item A.
Let me, before we just get real deep into that, the applicant has requested another 30-day deferral. He sent me an email.
Okay.
So we're still working through some items.
We will move that, Councilman, thank you. We'll move on to case B,
Okay.
0146. Do we have any more that are, oh, Dr. Burrs, I see your light.
Yeah, it's not with opposition, but zero, the very bottom of the page, 2023-0160.
Yes, ma'am.
I have no idea what that is. I've never spoken to anyone about it. And so unless I hear something by next week, it's going to be gone, at least
Okay.
from the agenda.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for making a note. Any other notes before we move on with 0146? Okay, Karen, you ready?
Yep. This did have some opposition at Planning Commission, is more related to just concerns about kind of nature and stormwater, perhaps not super specific to the site, but I will cover it. It's a request to rezone 5468 Old Hickson Pike from O1 Office Zone and C2 Convenience Commercial Zone. Both of those have conditions on them to a straight C2 Convenience Commercial Zone for a retail use. We've had several cases in this area recently. It's about 6.1 acres. There's a kind of a pattern of a commercial strip on this side of Hickson Pike in the area. Property is currently zoned C2 with conditions. The rezoning happened in 2021. The proposal at that time was to develop a drive-through restaurant that's in the C2 portion along Hickson Pike, and then O1 in the back along Old Hickson Pike. That request was approved with several conditions. They're shown here on the screen. There's a mix of uses in the area, and staff noted that the proposal for a one-story restaurant with paved parking is compatible with adjacent development form in the area. The development form along Old Hickson Pike is a little bit different and is picked up in a series of conditions for cases through there, and I'll mention that in a minute. The Hickson North River Plan adopted in 2005 recommends a medium business mix for the front half facing Hickson Pike and high-density residential for the rear of the property facing Old Hickson Pike. The C2 zone, the requested C2 zone does permit the land uses recommended in both those classifications. And staff noted that the plan is the request is partially compatible with the plan, but recommended carrying over conditions from prior zoning cases that have been done in that area. So although the applicant's requesting a C2 commercial zone with no conditions, staff recommended a type 20 land foot buffer, some restrictions on use and no access onto Old Hickson Pike. Planning Commission did agree with that recommendation. Again, opposition was more about stream buffer, loss of vegetation, and not perhaps specific to development on the site. So the recommendation from Planning Commission is to rezone C2 with those conditions. Again, we spoke about it, I believe, last month. No access onto Old Hickson Pike has been a pretty set condition for many of the zoning cases in that area, and that's intended to direct traffic towards Hickson Pike.
All right. Councilman Smith, anything to add?
I'm good with the conditions, thank you.
Very good. I'm seeing no lights, Karen.
And should I go to case 160 or?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I was going to ask you, will you put a note to reach out to the applicant?
I will.
They probably need to contact Dr. Burrs.
I will, yes.
Thank you. I would like to move over to, do you want to cover our cases? You want to move into the text amendments?
If you don't mind going to the text amendment, I have them in order. It's easier for me just
No
to
problem.
flip through.
We'll go through item G then.
Okay,
I want to throw you off the game there.
thank you. It's sometimes a little bit much to keep up with.
Understood.
Okay, so this, I'll have two cases back to back. Neither discuss two items. Neither of these had opposition at Planning Commission. They're kind of robust, so just wanted to touch on them briefly. Understand there may be some deferral for these items. But this is creating the west side context area and zones, and then it's followed by rezoning to the west side zone. So I don't want to go into too much detail I want to start as a reminder that an applicant can request to create a new zone. There's the option to, if you have a larger than 40-acre site, you can submit a request for a new context area and related form-based code zone. You have to demonstrate that the current zones don't meet your needs for zoning, and that you need to demonstrate how the new context and zones fulfill the form-based code purpose. So there is a little depth about what you can do there. Also, you can create a new form-based code context, but there's only certain elements. So if it's not one of the elements on the screen, you're generally prohibited. You're not opening up the whole form-based code. You have to align to those requirements. You're just allowed to work within this context. So we're looking at West Side. It'll be highlighted. The last user to create the new context was the Bend, as shown on the map. So the action amending the form-based code adds a new context area called the West Side, and also adds two new zones. It's the WN Neighborhood Zone and the WPK Park Zone. I will note the applicant only asked to be rezoned to the WN zone, but there are two zones. I'm going to skip the review of all the standards. They're very robust. I think I would note that between RPA, LDO, and CDOT, we spent a substantial amount of time reviewing the proposed language and the standards, comparing them to existing form-based code zones, making sure we understood them, and had a lot of conversation with the applicant. So I'm not kind of going into detail, but those did receive a very thorough review, and we can certainly go through them if you'd like. So context and zones are accompanied by use tables. They're very similar to what you see elsewhere. In this case, the WN zone shown on the left, the other two zones are just shown as comparisons to help us understand how they relate to other zones that are already here for the city. And just because it came up, I wanted to note that the requested new zone has short-term vacation rentals shown as a limited use in the WN zone, because we do have materials in the packet that show that. And both staff and Planning Commission recommended removing short-term vacation rentals as a limited use in the use table. And the staff report noted that the proposed short-term vacation rental use does not appear compatible with the West Side of Voss plan goals to provide long-term housing in the area. But since it shows on the screen, I kind of wanted to show how that gets addressed with the staff recommendation and Planning Commission recommendation. The intention of the zoning is to implement the West Side of Voss plan, which was adopted by council in 2022. And I'll just, I'm going to hit on some of the highlights. I know you've seen this before. The plan seeks to improve street networks, create spaces that support pedestrian activity, community gathering. It encourages a mix of uses, and encourages a variety of housing, including kind of a low, mid, and high, and then provides height related to those, and that is reflected in the zone. And some plan goals for open space also. So staff found that the proposed West Side context area is compatible with adopted West Side Voss plan, with some minor changes to ensure compatibility and limit dissimilar uses. So staff recommended approval, and then it's some way pretty similar to Planning Commission. I'll skip to that again. There was no opposition. The Planning Commission recommendation and the ordinance is written to approve with these changes. So these changes would be reflected in the, if approved, in the ordinance, in the form-based code. Removing short-term vacation rentals, parking minimums, clear pedestrian zone, and adding single-family attached and single-family attached with ADUs as a permitted use. This was a request at Planning Commission for another user, not part of this rezoning request, that was interested in using the West Side zone, and they asked that that be added in because they felt that might be a use appropriate in their project, and Planning Commission recommended that be added in. So partly why I'm mentioning this, and I did give Councilman Ledford and Chairman Dotley a heads up, is that staff is asking for an alternate version. There was quite a bit of discussion between the staff recommendation, which retained existing parking minimums, and the idea the applicant was, Planning Commission asked staff and CDOT and the applicant to get together to talk about parking between Planning Commission and City Council. So there has been discussion on that, and the red language is the new language. So zones within West Side context area may apply a parking discount of 0.5 spaces per residential unit. So that, working together, determined that that would be a good standard, and that would be what would go into the zone if found appropriate. And then a clear pedestrian zone, an 8-foot minimum, and that too is acceptable and reasonable to staff. So again, Planning Commission kind of gave the direction, let's see if there's another alternative of parking, and the alternate version reflects what staff's implementation of Planning Commission's request.
Thank
And I
you,
can
Karen.
go on to the zoning if that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay, and this will take a little less time since I've already touched on some of the items. It's a rezoning of 53 acres to the new West Side Neighborhood Zone for the mixed-use development of the West Side of Alls plan. And I'll skip through several of these items. Again, the intention is to support the plan. And staff had recommended to, as I mentioned, deny the applicant's request solely for the neighborhood zone and recommended the park zone for the Sheila Jennings Park area. The applicant and Planning Commission had quite a bit of discussion on that. And there was some complexity about where they're putting public infrastructure and kind of configuration of that site. So Planning Commission moves forward with a recommendation to approve the West Side Neighborhood Zone for the entirety of the project.
Good?
Yes.
All right, Madam Chair, you have the floor.
All right, thank you so much. I just wanted to note that this will be deferred, I requested deferral until Tuesday, October the 31st. I did have some more questions about the parking requirements as well, and some other questions about it in general, but I'll be meeting with Jessica Stack, I believe,
Okay.
to go over some of that information and potentially visit the site as well. So just wanted to let you know, both items will be deferred until October 31st. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Any other questions or comments on this case? So we covered, we covered 156, Karen.
Yes.
So are there any questions on 156? Hit your light for me, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Knowles?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my question is not for 156, but it is for 2023-0130. And I'm not familiar with this at all. I have not spoke with anyone as well on this.
Is that item I, Collier Construction?
Yes.
Okay, can we, Karen, make sure?
I will.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
we will make sure you are contacted. Item J, 0137.
Okay. And 0137 and 38 were deferred from last month, and staff, planning staff and Public Works Transportation staff had asked for the deferral because we had 3 cases that backed up. The 2, 137 and 138, that are under planning today, or excuse me, for the proposed 1010 agenda, are lifting conditions, but they're related to a Public Works case, which is on the proposed agenda. I believe it's item number 10. And so the lifting conditions, staff opinion, are responding to council's action on the abandonment of the right-of-way. And the abandonment of the right-of-way, I believe, is coming from CDOT with a recommendation to deny, but the way the materials are written, it looks like an approval with condition. So I believe that CDOT is working on getting that corrected. But because of the complexity of the Public Works recommendation, and then how the applicant might want to respond to that now that that recommendation has been published, we'll take the next few days to coordinate with the applicant. We, planning staff, thinks that the applicant, if there's action on the denial, might choose to just withdraw the cases. But we'll need some time on that. We were waiting to make sure we understood Public Works recommendations before we coordinated with the applicant. So we will work on that in the next few days, and I can send Councilwoman Knoll an update on where we are.
Okay, and this is a Lucy Boiler site.
It is. It's the Lucy Boiler site, and they're pretty complex, and they're very related, and CDOT staff has done quite a bit of work and communication on it. So we just want to make sure the applicant understands and is able to make a decision on the appropriate decision on whether he wants to move forward on the lifting conditions.
Okay, and you'll make sure Councilwoman Knoll
I will.
and Councilwoman Coonrod are brought
Yes.
into the conversation? Yes, ma'am. You have the floor.
I did speak with several of the constituents, and I am in the process of setting up a meeting, hopefully Thursday, with them with the developer as well. Okay.
So I will contact him so he's aware before I do the meeting.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Let's move on to item K0138. This is our same case. We really don't need to cover this one?
That's correct. They're
Okay.
the same, lifting the same condition at the same property.
Okay, Lucy Boiler site, very good. Then let's move into the Chapter 38, item M.
Okay. So this is another amendment to the form-based code. There had no opposition at Planning Commission, but was asked to cover it. So I just wanted to remind again, form-based code was adopted in 2016, but there is a section that's a process for a request to amend the form-based code. This was added in 2021, where if someone would like an amendment to the form-based code, they can come to the Regional Planning Commission at a public forum, have a discussion about what the request is, and the Regional Planning Commission can direct staff on their desired approach. In August, a couple months ago, someone did come and ask for an amendment to the downtown context area, the DCX zone, for the creation of to amend the height for a maximum of 20 stories and 300 feet. So that is how we came here. Planning Commission determined that was an appropriate amendment and asked staff to draft the amendment. That did go forward at Planning Commission, and so what I'm presenting was presented to Planning Commission and then coming to you all. Just to remember, this is a request to amend height, to add height to a zone, but this is in the downtown core, the commercial mixed-use zone, so it's not opening up all of form-based code. I just wanted to be real clear, it's that one item. And the downtown core is this area. It's kind of the central business district. So this is the context area in the zone. I don't have a zoning map to show the DCX properties, but this is the area we're talking about.
Okay, questions? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I paused to turn a page, excuse me. So the ordinance amendment permits taller heights. Currently, the DCX zone, has a maximum of 12 stories and 160 feet. So instead of just jumping to 20 stories, staff drafted an amendment that incrementally went up to 14, 16, 18, 20. Right now, anyone who wants a greater height over 12 would have to get rezoned to one of these options. So it's not 12 or 20, there's some incremental heights along the way. Also adding a following minimum height, a 4-story minimum. So, I'm going to skip the slide. The petitioner for a change in building heights provided this map to staff. It's showing 16 stories of Liberty Towers in the Marriott, 17 stories First Horizon, 18 stories the SunTrust Tourist Building, and then Republic Center at 21 stories. So the resolution from Planning Commission notes that there are numerous buildings in the surrounding downtown context area which exceed or come close to the proposed 20-story, 300-foot maximum. Form-based code strongly encourages the vertical mixing of uses, and the creation of DCX 20 zone is in line with this intent. There is precedent for the proposed amendment based on the Bend CX 20 zone, commercial mixed-use zone, that's a 20-story height. And the Planning Commission determined the request for the proposed amendment is an appropriate request and is in line with other changes to the form-based code.
Karen, when was the last time we built something that tall? Do you remember?
I guess what,
Does it be
perhaps
Republic?
what's on that list. And the 2016, the 12-story maximum went in, but we do have a case heading to Planning Commission in October that is a request to use the zone to go to 20 stories, and that's on the Market Street. So that project, so the petitioner that asked for the change is following up with a rezoning request for that site.
That's very interesting, fascinating. Council questions, comments? Karen, I'm seeing none.
Okay.
Want to move into E, under our resolutions?
Yes, and this is a planned unit development. This case did have opposition. So as a reminder, the underlying zoning doesn't change. It's for a special exceptions permit to sit on top of that zoning. The property is on Eli Road to develop townhomes and single-unit residences at a density of 4.9 dwelling units an acre. 29 lots, 17 of those are townhome lots. There's no recent zoning history for the site. Probably the most recent zoning change would be the Narrows at RTZ, and that's been a while. There's sites located in the Hickson North River Community Plan, which recommends low-density residential for the property. That plan opens up low-density residential a little bit more than some of the other plans. It's described as detached single-family with some exceptions made for townhomes, patio homes, and two-family dwellings if density is compatible. And that has been used to introduce some additional uses in that suburban area. So again, that's talking about kind of compatibility. There's a kind of a wet weather conveyance through the site, and I'm showing this because it's reflected in the site plan to show that the applicant's coming off of Eli Road on the western part, and then coming off of gosh, I've forgotten the name, Forest Glen perhaps, on the eastern portion. So the PUD plan allocates 1.4 acres for community areas. It includes that stormwater area. And staff just recommended perhaps that the applicant consider pedestrian connectivity between the developed areas. The PUD tool is compatible with the Hickson North River plan surrounding land uses and development form, but the proposed design is not compatible. This is staff's recommendation with surrounding uses, density, and form. So the plan supports a mix of housing, but this would introduce a different form. So again, maybe not the mix, it's not the housing type, it's more the massing and kind of the large paved areas as shown in the site plan. The applicant had provided 2 site plans. This first one staff felt was a little bit more compatible with the plan recommendation, and just noted that if the design clustered them within the development, then pushing them towards Eli Road, it might be more compatible. There was opposition present, traffic, concern about the pond, stormwater pond location and runoff. Again, that kind of wet weather conveyance is through there. And just generally traffic in the area. Planning Commission determined the request is compatible with the plan development form and land uses and recommends approval, but did add a landscape buffer, a condition for a landscape buffer between the proposed townhome uses and the adjacent single-family properties, and that was intended to help address some of the concerns about incompatibility by recommendation of that landscape buffer.
All right, thank you, Karen. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. We had a community meeting about this PUD request last night. I feel like the representative did a good job of addressing community concerns. And through that, we did determine an additional condition. This is the first PUD, Karen, that I have handled since I've been on council, so I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
So pedestrian access is a key element for me. I've been telling every developer, I personally don't ever want to see another cul-de-sac neighborhood built in District 2. I want road connectivity. The topography of this land being such as it is, we discussed it and agreed that pedestrian connectivity by way of a bridge over this stream and or drainage area would be appropriate. And I would like to include that as a condition of the development. Also, along the upper edge, I don't know if that's north, south, east, or west, but the edge that backs up to the single-family housing off the townhomes. That type C landscape buffer, I'd like that to go all the way to the creek, please.
Okay, so
So
it would
originally-
go past the detention pond area.
Correct. It would have ended behind that final townhouse, but instead will go all the way to the creek.
Okay.
The community was very pleased with that possibility. And then the other question that I had, Karen, is the developer was very responsive to my request for more variety of housing in District 2, and I appreciate staff's points about the massing, but I will say that this determination to bring townhomes was in an effort to add some additional units in District 2. And also, you know, we do have townhomes near this site, so it's not an unusual form, as you noted in your report. But I would very much like to encourage ADUs as part of the single-family homes that are on the other portion of the PUD. And I wonder how that works if within a PUD I can place a condition for a certain number of ADUs, for example, or if that's something that we need to stay away from within a condition.
I know we have a language, or I'm pretty certain, not having it in front of me, that we have language that says the ADUs in the PUD does not require, it's not impacting density and doesn't require a major change, because the PUD locks it down a little bit more, and I think we gave the flexibility in the ADU ordinance that putting an ADU in a PUD is not a major change and shouldn't be any of the triggers. So I think it's relatively easy. It should be relatively easy, and I will check that for that to do, because the intention was to have the ADUs functioning pretty much as a R1 single family and
Correct.
not the lockdown with the PUD. I can check that. I think, I don't know how, if it's not required, if they're being required to do it, if it's a maximum, if it's a minimum, I'm not sure. We can play with some language and send you some ideas.
Well, so the topography of this site, like so many, presents some challenges. And so I recognize that the homes on the right side of the diagram, it might be kind of difficult to look at an ADU on that side. But I think for the 5 that are on the left side of that cul-de-sac, an ADU could be appropriate. So if you could please look at some potential language for that. I'm going to discuss it further with the applicant, but I would like to have some guarantees that we will have some ADUs there, and I understand why they did not include that in their original PUD request because of the R1. I'm going to be out of town next week, and so I'd like to defer this case until the 17th, just 1 week later. And I will let the applicant know that I'm going to be deferring it.
Okay. And we'll send, the next few days, we'll send some language for consideration.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you. Madam Vice Chair, if you're going to be gone, this item will be on our agenda for next week, so we might need to arrange.
So I would like to, that's true, I need to arrange for someone to defer it for me.
Unless Phil, can we do that here, or do we need to stay within the new TCA guidelines?
Stay within the new TCA, please.
Okay. Well, as our planning and zoning chair, may I request in this meeting
I
that
will be
you
happy to do that.
defer that for
Sure,
me till the
absolutely.
17th?
Yes.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
ma'am. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Any other business to come before planning and zoning, before we adjourn into parks and public works? Then I will close us out and welcome in Councilman Hester.
No attorney. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome to Parks and Public Works Committee. Can we accept the minutes?
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, 5C, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 21, Section 21 through 62, municipal lien for costs, collection of liens.
See no hands. 7D, please.
A resolution authorizing the City of Chattanooga to apply for and, if awarded, accept a National Parks Service African American Civil Rights Grant for the Big 9 History Crawl Project in the amount of $58,000.00.
See no hands. E and F, please.
Item E, a resolution authorizing the Administrator for the Department of Public Works to approve change order number 1 with Thomas Brothers Construction Company, Inc. of Hickson, Tennessee, for contract number S-16-014-201, Lynbrook Park and Stream Restoration, to increase by $395,680.00 due to additional foundry sand remediation, addition of planned park amenities, and other construction changes for a revised contract amount of $3,487,929.42, with a contingency in the amount of $124,320.00, for a total amount of $3,612,249.42. Item F, A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to renew the professional services for the on-call blanket contract for stormwater modeling and floodplain analysis services. Contract number S-20-004-100 for year 3 of 4 to the 5 consultant firms listed per qualification package. Stantec Consulting Services, Inc., CDM Smith, Inc., Woods Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, Inc., AECOM, and S&ME, Inc., in the amount of $750,000.00.
Ordinance on first reading, 6N, please.
Councilman Nestor,
Oh,
if I could,
go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead.
Is it okay to interrupt? So that's the one that was incorrect on there. I don't know if I could provide the proper language on it, or if we could, what's the proper thing to do on that spot?
So the item number F is the one you're talking about, or?
Yes, the one on first reading for 10th,
Yes.
the abandonment case.
Okay, item on the 10th, here, let me get over to that.
That's going to be 6N.
6N, yeah, you can make amendments, at least if it is something that will be on for next week, but not for tonight.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
So could I provide the proper language now, or should we read what's on the sheet that she has in front of her?
Let's get her to read on the sheet, and then let's, from there, make an amendment if we need to here.
6N, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning an unopened right-of-way west of and parallel to the 700 to 900 block of South Greenwood Avenue, as detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions.
Okay, sir.
Ben.
Just for clarity, what's incorrect? Can we just not do an alternate version as opposed to amendment?
If it's next week, we can do an alternate version. I guess the concern I had was that you were talking about withdrawal as well on this item, so just trying to make sure where we are. The CDOT had some recommendation for changes or possible withdrawals, what I had on my notes. Yes, sir.
Yes, so we have a recommendation to deny. Unfortunately, we wrote the ordinance incorrectly there, so it should have said to deny instead of approve. And that's being sent to Maria now to correct for the 10th agenda. I just want to make you all aware of that, since that will be coming in today probably.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so just to deny instead of approve.
That's correct.
All right.
Okay.
Yes?
Phil, we don't need an alternate version.
No. It's
So,
just a recommendation by them. Yes.
okay, so we proceed. Okay. Madam Clerk, 7F, please.
A resolution to amend resolution number 31572 with Robert Roberts LLC of Chattanooga, Tennessee, for contract number F-18-001-201, new fire station number 15, to include a 5% contingency amount, $212,860.00 from FY24 capital appropriations for a revised total amount of $4,470,068.50.
Thank you. G, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement with the Tennessee Department of Transportation, TDOT, for Benesch and Company to provide professional services for the Multimodal Access Grant Project, contract number T-22-006, TDOT PIN 132043.00, to install Bike Chattanooga bike share stations and Carta bus shelters along Dodson Avenue and Glass Street with the City of Chattanooga share not to exceed $8,000.
Thank you. H and I, please.
Item H, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement with TDOT, contract number CRR 070482, to receive reimbursement for work performed, stripping and signing for multiple at-grade railroad crossings with a reimbursement rate of 100%. Item I, A resolution authorizing the Administrator for the Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement with TDOT, contract number CRR 070522, to receive reimbursement for work performed striping and signing for the at-grade railroad crossing at Boy Scout Road with a reimbursement rate of 100%.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments, any questions concerning Parks and Public Works? Okay. At this time, this concludes Parks and Public Works Committee. I want to thank all you guys with Parks and Public Works for the great job you guys are consistently doing. Thank you. And, Councilwoman Coonrod is coming. You hit your knife. There we go. There you go. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you. I don't have, we done with this committee? Are we having another one? I just want to bring up an issue before we adjourn.
We have conclude Parks and Public Works.
Okay. Well, I wanted to just bring to the attention of to our council about the continued gun violence that's happening in our communities. And I have talked to Jermaine about it. Now we see in the news again where, somebody else downtown has been killed, taken away from their family, taken away from their friends. The people that's doing the killing, they're not coming to the jump part. They're not coming to No Smoke Sundays. They're not coming to let's go boogie it down. We're targeting the wrong group of people. And I think I've been real boisterous about this issue for quite some time, and even asked if we could get an update on what's going on, what are they doing in our communities. It's nothing against what Troy and Chris Sands and Ladarius are doing with the kids, but here it clearly shows like we're at a different age group that's shooting and killing each other in our community. Now we want to try to gloss over a lot of stuff when we're talking about these systemic issues and these barriers that's happening in our Black community, and we want to put it on the face of issues, like even when we're talking about housing and how the Black community is affected by it. But here's another thing that we're affected by, and it's aggressive. It's aggressive. Had we put some things in place to help adults like the Black guy who shot and killed this man downtown, which we have no programming or nothing that's helping those individuals. We failing those people, that age group. So we need to figure out what are we gonna put in place outside of just with the youth that we can keep in place. What other things that we can do to help adults that's carrying the guns as well. In the past 3 months now, we ask for reports and we get this glossed over reporting showing up on our screen, and everybody with smiles when they lie to us to say, oh, well, only 3 people don't went to jail. We get those emails. We get the emails, but we're not talking about the real data that even when we have young kids in those spaces, for the past 3 months, it's done been over 70 Black men. We're just talking about the Black men right now. Juveniles, age 13 to 17, that's in and out that door for felony crimes, murder, rape, all kind of charges, that we're just saying, oh, only 3 people done went in the system. We gotta be honest about what's happening in our community if we wanna make sure we're getting the results. We can't continue to keep having these glossed over reports with the wrong information, and people in our community are dying, killing each other, shooting at each other, killing other people, taking them away from their families, and it's only going to escalate to be worse. And I'm sure I'm not the only person that care about this issue, but we got to have something. We need to have, Chip, I'm asking you, can we have a planning meeting, such like Vice Chairwoman done today around housing? Like, we need to all get around the table, and we need to talk about what's really going on that's affecting our community, because it's going to get worse.
Well taken, Councilwoman Coonrod. Give rebuttal. Yeah. You have comments regarding this? We're gonna adjourn to 6.